Good afternoon, everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Jared, and this is my channel, Mazda B3K. In this video, we're going to do a drain and fill of the coolant system on my wife's 2016 Ford Transit Connect. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, let's talk about the official coolant that needs to go in. Now, if you cannot get the official Ford coolant, don't fret. You can go to your local parts store, or you can pick up a universal. You're gonna have to forgive me, I'm sick. But anyway, a universal coolant, that should work. But you'll have to go to a shorter change interval. This is the original official Ford coolant, orange. Specifically, this is VC3DIL-B. Only problem is they don't make this anymore. So you got to get into the fine print. This was specifically made to meet those two specifications there. WSS M97B44D or WSS M97B44-D2. So, time went by, Ford got rid of this coolant and replaced it with this one, yellow coolant. So I found the official Ford white paper that said that this coolant, VC13DL-G, is backwards compatible with the orange coolant. And you have to pay attention to this because there are different flavors of coolant, and if you mix two that are not compatible with each other, they'll make lumpy solids in your cooling system, and then bad stuff happens. So pay attention. So this is going to talk about this Ford spec here, WSS M97B57A2. This is backwards compatible with the other two specs that I called out a minute ago. So this will work. Again, if you can't get a hold of yellow, which is actually pretty easy to get, or you can't get a hold of orange, you can go to your local parts store. I think Xerox makes an orange. You can find some stuff there. But this van has had nothing but original Ford its whole life, so I'm trying to keep it that way. With all that blabbing done, let's get to the actual wrenching. First thing that's got to come out is the diaper, or service cover, whatever you want to call it. Has 6 bolts in it around the perimeter, and they look like this right here. They're Torx. I used a this is a T25. There it goes. Yeah. I used a T25 to get them out. You don't have to make them very tight. They should not be very tight in there if this is your first time removing this cover. But that's step 1. Step 2 is we have to locate the petcock, or the radiator drain. So we'll look for that. If we can't find that, then we're going to have to pull the lower radiator hose, which works extremely well, but it's a little bit messy. So let's look for that petcock. Alright, under the vehicle, and I am on the driver's side, right up next to the edge of the fan shroud. And this is your radiator petcock. So you'll turn it to the left to open it, possibly need to pull it out, and it will begin to slowly drain the radiator. What you're going to need to do up top once you get the drain going is you're going to need to open the overflow reservoir, because that's where your pressure cap is, and that'll increase the flow rate, so you won't be here until you're ready to retire waiting for the radiator to drain. So before I turn this, last thing you're going to need is some sort of catch pan. I use these oil pans versus the open radiator pans because I don't have an enclosed shop, so junk would fly in if I used an open pan versus an enclosed one. So I'm going to get this in position, get the petcock open, and we'll get rolling. So this is what it's going to look like once you get the petcock open. You need to turn it counterclockwise. You'll need to turn it about a full rotation, so 360 degrees or so, for it'll start releasing coolant. It has a small outlet, so if you can get a hose that could slip over that so you can direct the coolant, your life will be much better. In my case, I don't have one, so I just got the pan positioned, and I'm not opening the petcock all the way, so I can control where all this goes and keep it off my concrete. So now it's the part where you gotta wait a while for it to drain. Make yourself coffee or whatever, and then come back once it's done. Alright, so finish with the coolant. Make sure you close the petcock again when you're done. Otherwise, this is going to go straight onto the floor. Because of where the overflow is, you're going to need a funnel. So I got this nice long funnel that I use. And you just start filling it back up. There is a level mark here that should be max fill cold. You don't want your fluent level above that. So keep an eye on it as you fill. Alright, so the total capacity of the system is going to be about 1.5 gallons. Now, if you do like what I did, I had the van on ramps, so not all of it drained out. Some of it hung out in the block. Put about 1 gallon in, and that's about the max line. But what I wanted to point out, other than if you can do this on a flat surface, do that, you'll get more out, is this line here. It goes over to the tank, the overflow tank. This is the purge system. It gets bubbles out of the rest of the cooling system. So we've had the van running for about 15 minutes at this point, and then at one point I held it at about 2,500 RPM to try to make more heat. And we noticed, and you probably won't catch it on the camera, but we started seeing coolant spit coming out of this line. And what that is air is getting pushed out into this tank, so coolant can fill in those slots. So what I'm saying is when you're done with your drain and fill and you've buttoned everything back up, it would be a good idea to either let it run in idle and get hot, like what we're doing, or as long as you're sure you've got enough coolant in there that you're not going to overheat, go take it for a 20-30 minute drive, and then come back and see if you need to top it off, which is what's going to happen. I'm going to let my wife drive this for a little while and then come back and see if we need to do top off with coolant, because it's going to bleed itself over time with use of the engine. Alright, let it idle another 10 minutes or so. You can see it's actually dropped below the max line, even though it's hot, because it's been purging air. So we'll be doing top offs, maybe wait a week, 2 weeks. Just keep topping it off until we're good. I did look under the vehicle. I didn't see any leaks. You may get faked out, because if you didn't put a hose on the petcock when you drained, then coolant pools on the plastic shrouding at the bottom, and when the engine's on, it vibrates, and then it looks like a leak, but it's not. So, but keep an eye on that. Make sure your petcock is fully closed so it is not leaking. It does have a seal on it. Make sure that seal is okay. But engine's running fine. Got most of the old coolant out. I'm going to declare this a complete repair. Alright guys, that is going to do it for the coolant drain and fill on my 2016 Ford Transit Connect. Bear in mind that according to Ford, after you do the 100,000 mile drain and fill, your interval drops. It gets cut in half down to 50,000 miles. So keep that in mind. Other than that, please leave me a comment. I like reading them. I like replying to them. I like helping out when I can and learning when I can. And Otherwise, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, all that other YouTube stuff. And remember, I make the mistakes so you don't have to. I'll see you guys next episode.